Hi, thank you for joining us for Devotionables. These are brief devotions for busy people. My name is Gabriel, and I'm so glad you're with us. We're going to look at Acts chapter 2 today. We've been taking some time since Easter to look at post-resurrection appearances of Jesus. And last week we saw that Jesus ascended into heaven, was received by the Father, now sits at the right hand of the Father where He has all authority, He rules and reigns, and He will one day come again. Before He left, He gave some instructions to the disciples, to His followers, that they should wait in Jerusalem until they receive the Holy Spirit. In Acts 1, verse 8, it says, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in Judea and in Samaria and to the ends of the earth." What a great promise. Jesus, He gives this promise right before He is ascended. And Jesus was around for about 40 days after His resurrection, and then about another 10 days later, at the day of Pentecost, the Spirit is given. Peter in his sermon would say that this is a fulfillment of Joel chapter 2 when God said, "I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh." Let's read the account. It's in Acts chapter 2. "When the day of Pentecost arrived, they were all together in one place, and suddenly there came from heaven a sound like a mighty rushing wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting. And divided tongues as of fire appeared to them and rested on each one of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. Now there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men from every nation under heaven. And at this sound the multitude came together, and they were bewildered because each one was hearing them speak in his own language. And they were amazed and astonished, and saying, 'Are not all those who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we hear, each of us, in his own native language?'" Sometimes you just think about God's goodness and His kindness and His work, and we're grasping at words. We're just overcome with wonder and amazement, thanksgiving and worship. And this right here is one of those moments, the kindness of God, that He would give the greatest gift that He could give. And that's Himself. You know, I think sometimes we need to remind ourselves. Sometimes I feel like the Holy Spirit kind of takes a back seat a lot. And in some sense because of His role, right? He's always shining the light onto Jesus. He's exalting Jesus. The Holy Spirit is God. There's one God in three persons. The Holy Trinity, co-equal, co-eternal, right? Father, Son, Spirit. And the Spirit was promised by Jesus. In the upper room, He said, "If I go away, I will send you a helper. I will not leave you as orphans," right? And here we see that wonderful day. If you are a child of God, been born again by the Spirit, the Holy Spirit resides inside of you. God indwells you. Think about that for a moment. Before you think about the Old Testament saints, they knew in some ways, not as fully as we do, but they knew about the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit departed Saul, the king. David, after his sin, he said, "Don't let your Holy Spirit depart from me," because the Holy Spirit would come upon people, rush upon them, fill them for a task, and then would go. But now, beginning at Pentecost and the day before it, as the church is born, the Holy Spirit comes and indwells God's people. Thinking about now we are temples of the living God. So after the Exodus, God told them to build a tabernacle that He might cause a place for His name to dwell. And that among the nations, people would know that there in Israel God dwells. Then David wants to build a house, but Solomon actually ends up building the house, the temple. Jesus said, "You build down, destroy this temple, and I'll rebuild it 3 days," talking about His body. And now He gives to each one of His children, everyone who looks to Him in faith, the Holy Spirit that would indwell them, that we are temples of the living God. Paul says that you have been sealed by the Holy Spirit in Ephesians chapter 1 for the day of redemption. So this, and notice, it's all of them from every nation, right? This is not just the Jewish people, but the church has been born made up of Jew and Gentile. It's men and women. It's rich and poor. It's all who look to Christ in faith receive the Holy Spirit. When Jesus taught on prayer in Luke chapter 11, he mentions that the Father will give the Holy Spirit to all who ask. What a precious gift. The best gift that God could ever give us. The gift of himself, given and coming from the Father, from the Son, precious Holy Spirit, to indwell all who look to Jesus in faith, born from above, born again. The Holy Spirit indwells us, and he empowers us for mission and for service and obedience and worship to the King. Praise the God of the Bible, 3 in 1, Father, Son, Holy Spirit.